Investors are running for cover as they realize how terrible of an investment Airbnb actually is. As revenues are dropping 50% or more in some cities from coast to coast, companies like Sonder that once went public for almost $2 billion are now worth a paltry $50-something million. Investors have lost billions, and it's not just the bigger players. You can even see in places like Facebook and Reddit where small investors are quitting. The ever so famous YouTube influencer Shelby Church has announced that she's quitting Airbnb, and even people who claim to be good in this industry, such as Rob Built, have announced he stopped buying real estate. If Airbnb was a good investment, you would not have people like Rob Built tell you not to buy real estate anymore. Graham Stephan himself warned against something like this a long time ago. People are at risk of taking sketchy real estate investments that don't hold water on their own and then using Airbnb as an excuse to make more cash flow on that property. And he said, if there ever comes a day where Airbnb is no longer a good idea for that real estate investment, the person will lose money on the real estate investment because the Airbnb side won't make money. He would have scolded people like Shelby Church and Rob Built and Ryan Pineda and these bank investment companies on doing something not smart just because there was a fad at play that could make more money. It's not just buying real estate that's the problem here as an Airbnb investment. When you look at Sonder, they went public at almost $2 billion. They didn't own a single dollar of real estate, and they've lost 99% of their value. Other operators such as The Guild, Lyric, and Front Desk, who had thousands of doors collectively, have also all gone out of business, and they are very firmly planted in the arbitrage space. And on the co-hosting side, there's companies such as Evolve and Vacasa. They've been losing clients by the thousands. So what happened? What made this investment all of a sudden the very worst investment that you could ever make? And the truth is, it's always been a risky investment. It's been a bad one for a while, and people are only now starting to realize it because how the industry works. Allow me to explain the mechanics of investing in an Airbnb. When you invest in an Airbnb, you're hoping to cash flow off that property. A lot of people like to mix this with real estate investments. We can look at Shelby Church because she's the most famous case for this, where she bought a property in Palm Springs. That was a real estate investment. That investment made her money. She made money as a real estate investor, but she lost her tail as an Airbnb investor. The Airbnb side of this play is taking a real estate product and furnishing it, making it pretty, making it worthwhile for someone to stay for a short period of time, and then getting it to operate at a profit. This is investing into a business, much like buying shares of Airbnb. You could invest into that business, and if it's profitable, you'll make money. She had a co-host. That co-host would take a percentage of her revenue. She'd have housekeepers that would also get paid. She'd have the electric bill, insurance, etc., and of course the furniture and maintenance costs. At the end of the year, a piece of real estate will generate a certain amount of revenue or dollars. That property could be a tent, it could be a tree house, it could be a real house, it could be a giant-sized shoe from a storybook you remember when you were a kid, it could be a bubble dome. That thing will make money and then have associated expenses. Your co-host, if you have one, housekeeping fees, cleaning, maintenance, insurance, everything. At the end of that year, when you deduct all of those expenses, you will have net cash flow. A lot of Airbnb investors then also have a rent payment or a mortgage payment associated with that piece of real estate that they have. And because of multiple expenses, the large mortgage, the high cleaning fees, and the lower revenue from there being too many Airbnb properties, people are now losing money on their investment as an Airbnb. And yes, I do have many Airbnb properties. I've been operating in the space for over 8 years. My portfolio has crested to over 150 properties in 9 cities. But I am not an investor. And for example, the co-host that Shelby Church has hired for her property is also not an investor. She probably still makes money on those properties in Palm Springs, while other Airbnb investors are losing money. And this is where something very subtle could be the make or break realization for hundreds of thousands of Airbnb hosts around the world. Many more Airbnb investors are going to be quitting over the next year, but which ones will be dependent on this one realization. And let's bring this all to the surface. In the last 3 months, I've done a series of videos. Some of those videos, for example, were videos on how to furnish Airbnb properties. To summarize these videos, they say if you have an Airbnb property, these are the types of amenities, furniture, and designs that will make the most cash per month for the type of property that you have. And much like these videos, you will find videos on home renovations, ones that make a lot of money for Airbnb, pricing strategy, how to get the most money out of your Airbnb, SEO tips and marketing tips to make sure that you show up well in rank, customer psychology so you know how to get a customer to click, stick, and buy your listing, and market research so you can identify the right property types or neighborhoods that are ripe to make money on Airbnb. But with all of these videos, I've always said, don't be an Airbnb investor. That is what loses money. All of these videos are how to operate an Airbnb business, and that is the still far too hidden truth for this industry and why so many people are losing money. There are real estate investors and venture capital funds and bank investments that are trying to put real estate into the short-term rental space and hold it like a real estate investment. They are then trying to offload the management of that new business to a company like a co-host, which is still far too unregulated and new to trust anybody to do so. And where all of these investors have failed is they failed to build a real business. If you wanted to invest in Airbnb, you could simply buy their stock. And you would have to trust Airbnb that their engineers and their marketing department would keep finding new hosts and new customers and have a good app. And if they made money, you are now an Airbnb investor in their stock. If you wanted to invest in real estate, you could buy a property or syndicate, invest into a trust, all sorts of different ways to get into property, and then you would find a way for that property to cash flow. And a lot of people will hire a property manager, and that property manager will find long-term tenants. That is a long-established world for real estate. But many people are trying to get higher upside on these properties by hiring co-host companies. Co-hosts that have to run a much more complex and ever-changing business model, and co-hosts that don't have any licenses or credentials to do the work that they have. Being a property manager is far more easy than being a co-host, and being a property manager has much higher expectations for licenses and credentials to do so. So at the core, many of these investors are hiring strangers that they should not trust with their properties to run them on Airbnb, where it would be better for them to try to start a new small business. They could even simply do this themselves, but many people aren't looking for a new business to run, they're looking for a passive income opportunity. But that's the nature of building a business. A business needs leadership. So the person who buys the Airbnb property should be the person that runs it for a while. They should hire their own housekeepers, train those housekeepers how to do housekeeping, and get that person at a good price. Because the public market for Airbnb housekeeping has gotten out of control, people are paying hundreds of dollars to clean houses that it should cost them $50 or $70 to clean these houses. This is a cost inefficiency that is killing not only the host's profit margin, but also killing the trust between the guest and the Airbnb platform because of these high and huge cleaning fees. And it goes deeper than housekeeping. The place needs to be designed, needs to be maintained, the customers need to be taken care of, there's inventory that needs to be restocked, and there's tech to be managed and customers to be remarketed to, so you can slowly get off of Airbnb and VRBO and start to get to doing direct bookings. But many of these investors have no clue of how this world works, so they have no way of holding these co-hosts accountable. And when we bring this all back to the center of good investing practices, someone like Warren Buffett would tell you, never invest into something that you don't understand. At the heart of it, we have real estate investors thinking that Airbnb was the same, and they're quickly learning that it's not. If you would like to know more about this industry because you're the business owner type and you see an opportunity here, your wheels are moving, watch this video next. This will give you a breakdown of the main parts of an Airbnb business. If you can understand that this is a business model to operate and make money like any other company, you could succeed. If you think this is a real estate investment, maybe you should move on. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. You're my favorite people, and as always, I will see you on the other side.